Welcome to the Life Is podcast, where creativity, culture, mindset, and intentional living come together through real conversation. I'm your host, Coy Brown. Each week, I sit down with entrepreneurs, artists, athletes, travelers, and visionaries who didn't stumble into a life they love, they built it. We go deep into how they think, how they reconstructed themselves, and what became possible on the other side. This is not just about what people have accomplished. It's about the internal work that made it sustainable. Because when you build from the inside out, life expands. Let's get into it. This week, I'm sitting down with someone who has been building since elementary school. Not metaphorically, literally. Josh's father told him early, don't follow the crowd, create your own path. He listened. From selling candy in the hallways to consulting for Allison Felix and 21st Century Fox by his 20s, to earning a doctorate in learning technologies, to designing his own books and creative notebooks from scratch, Josh has never outsourced his creative vision to someone else's expectations. What he figured out is that authenticity and agency are not soft concepts. They are structural. They are what make the work last. Here's what that looked like from the inside. Well, good afternoon, Josh. It's great to see you. It's great to connect. And I appreciate you. Yes, I appreciate you joining the Life Is podcast, hosted by myself. But more importantly, as you join the show, man, how are you feeling today?
I'm good. The weather is getting to be a tad bit warmer.
Yes.
So that's always a mood booster. So
Absolutely.
we're feeling good. We're feeling good. What
Good.
about yourself?
I'm doing well. On our end, it's a little cold. I know for our viewers, Josh is actually in California.
Vegas.
Vegas.
Yeah.
Vegas. And we're here in Indiana, so it's a little bit different climate. Weather's a little different.
I commend you. I commend you for enduring.
A little different on our end, but all is well. I'm looking forward, honestly, to today's conversation. Honestly, to connect with you. I know we've been connected over the years through social media and following each other's work. So I'm excited to dive in today, and I'm feeling really good about it. So I appreciate you asking.
Indeed. I appreciate the ask and I appreciate the time as well. I mean, it's literally been years. I think we're nearing a decade possibly.
Yeah, it's been some time.
So it's been
2016,
time. So
2017.
you've seen my evolution. I've seen yours. So
Yeah,
it's great to connect in this capacity for sure.
absolutely. Well, to get started here, just for our viewers, if you can share with us, Josh, where you're from, what you do, and kind of what keeps you busy currently.
Yeah. So I more professionally go by Dr. Joshua Gray as a creative entrepreneur, an author, a speaker, multidisciplinary designer from learning design to graphic design. I kind of exist on that spectrum of
Mm-hmm.
design, and then more currently going into the space of personal and professional development with a pretty keen focus on positivity, creativity, and strategy to ultimately encourage and equip and empower individuals to live greater. So that's what I pretty much do from day to day. I'm in the works of releasing a children's book to accompany my other books.
Okay.
So I'm excited. It's that's what's keeping me busy right this second. So
Yeah.
I'm excited about that and excited about what may become of it.
Well, thank you, man. I appreciate you sharing. It sounds like very busy, to say the least. You got your hands in a lot
You're
of
fine.
pots, working, right? A lot of
Mhm.
creative things you're doing
Yeah.
to bring value, man. So it's
Hmm.
awesome what you're doing, and what you're bringing to people's lives. As
Indeed,
as we
indeed.
gently move forward, right? I want to gently ask you, right, before we kind of switch
Mhm.
gears here. What season of life do you feel like you're in right now, with everything that you're
Yeah.
doing, involved in?
Right. So it's pretty much a season of pivoting in a way. Although I've been doing that for the past few years or past couple of years, just in a huge pivot right now, where I'm going from academia per se, into really bringing to life everything that I've learned from the past 10 to 15 years
Hmm.
in a different way because more professionally, I've always been involved in creative consulting and graphic design and branding for the past 10 years, but now pivoting into kind of that personal and professional development space, something that I'm eager about, something that I am focusing on. So pivoting into that and just really finding different opportunities to bring those ideas to life. With that season comes it comes a creative wrestling. It also comes and excitement. So there's a lot of feelings going on, but I'm really glad to be landing in places that are making impact for sure.
Yes, I love it, man. I
Yeah.
love it. Great,
Mhm.
great answer. And as I said, as we switch gears here and really kind of diving, really kind of taking us back to your childhood. For many guests we speak, I've spoken offline with you prior, and you've kind of shared, right? You've had an entrepreneurial spirit since a child, which I
Mhm.
love when you shared
Right.
that. Um, what kind of business or creativity, or what did that mean? Excuse me. What did business or creativity mean to you growing up? And if you can kind of share as well, what that childhood looked like in that type of
Yeah.
environment.
For sure, for sure. So, luckily and fortunately, I kind of came from a family of entrepreneurs.
Mm-hmm.
My mom, she did nails on her own for years. That's what she
Yep.
was doing when she had me.
And
So I guess that entrepreneurial spirit was
uh,
delivered when I was delivered.
right, right, through your DNA.
uh, yeah, my DNA, and then also my dad was also in the entrepreneurial lane as well. And then from stories that I've heard from my dad, my grandmother was as well. So just
Mm-hmm.
coming from that base and that foundation of entrepreneurship, and just that sense of autonomy and agency, that
Yes.
was something that really pushed me forward, even at a young age. So I even remember uh, probably around the middle school, elementary school, leaning into that creative aspect because I was
Yes.
always artistic and just really good with art, and just really exploring how that may manifest in different ways. So I used to sell like holiday cups around Valentine's Day and Christmas, putting my boots on the ground
Yeah.
with the
Yeah.
different communities that I was involved in. And that kind of like was an aspect of entrepreneurship that I kind of like played around with. And then throughout, I believe middle school, I used to sell candy.
Okay.
Um, throughout different mediums and throughout different ways, and just really testing what it means to be in business for yourself. Just really
Absolutely.
figuring out what that feels like, what mindset is needed to bring that to life and to kind of excel in it and
Mhm.
continue to do that. Really, I believe, equip me for the future to where I am today.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think to your point, you have a lineage, right? Father, mother, grandmother that's entrepreneurial in spirit, right? I think your creative work speaks for itself. I think the guests will hear about that, experience that as we go talk forward. I think that's probably something second nature that just you probably were aware of at a young age, and then finding those avenues, like you said, really the mindset of what it may take or what it may look like as an entrepreneurial endeavor to tackle
Yeah.
something like that. And you kind of jumped ahead, which is great because you talked about selling cups and candy in elementary school.
Mhm.
What did those early ventures teach you about people and value?
Right, right. So I believe it really, in order to sell something, you have to connect.
Mm,
So I believe figuring out ways to connect, whether that's through empathy or whether that's through discovering what interests someone. I
yes,
believe that is something that is really important, and just connecting and finding ways to connect because every potential sale that you make, you're not going to encounter a customer who's the same.
yeah,
So just
that's true.
figuring out different ways to connect and using your life to match their life and just really figuring out ways to really make impact in their lives through whatever you're doing, whether that's through holiday cups or whether that's through a
Yep.
piece of Skittle. Just figure out what can bring joy to their lives for me, what can bring joy to their lives, and just doing that and just connecting for sure.
Yeah. Yeah, it's important. I think connection in general. I think connection, when you were speaking, it's that connection look in a variety of different ways,
Hmm.
right? Depending on what the person, like you said, the customer or even the culture,
Right.
the connection is the key piece. There's
Exactly.
not one or wrong or right way to connect, but as
Mhm.
long as you have that connection, you're able to find a value point, something they're
Right.
looking for, a need,
Hmm.
that's gonna allow you to, right, get to the end result on the back end.
Indeed, for
Yeah.
sure.
You talked about too, Josh, your father encouraged you, right? Alternatives to
Mhm.
traditional 9 to 5 paths,
Right.
as we're kind of speaking about from an entrepreneurial standpoint. How did that shape your sense of possibility early on, right? Because that's from my perspective, I feel like that's such a great encouragement to
Mhm,
your children to have that possibility and belief from behind.
mhm. Right. So I believe it really set me up to have a sense of self belief and confidence early on, knowing
Mhm.
that your particular ideas matter,
Yeah,
and that they may actually matter to someone else. I believe when it comes to entrepreneurship, we always wonder if our ideas are good enough or if they are
exactly.
something that will bring value, and that can hold up people all the time. I believe it's one of the reasons why people don't get into business. I think research shows that it's that fear aspect of whether or not it's going to work, whether or not they have funds, or whether or not they have the connections to make it happen.
Mhm.
But from early on, having that sense of belief really helped me in all of my different entrepreneurial adventures. Like I said, with the holiday cups,
Yep.
uh, believing that somebody may want to buy a holiday cup for
Yeah,
Christmas or
yeah, yeah.
Valentine's Day, or even believing that after school you will want a Reese's, or after school you'll want some chips.
Yep.
Just having that self-belief that your ideas matter, that they will bring value. I believe it's something that resonated with me and that was instilled in me early on through my father's emphasis on entrepreneurship. And in doing that, I believe it really impacted how I moved forward and how I thought about an idea that came to life. I think sometimes we look at different celebrities,
Yeah.
and all of the business ventures that they get into, um, and it all starts with an idea. And once you have that idea, the next step is just kind of like bringing it to life. How do I
Exactly.
go from this invention of an idea or this intention of an idea and then inventing it? So I believe that fear in the middle is what prevents that invention from coming to life. But with my father's emphasis on entrepreneurship, I believe it definitely instilled that confidence to really combat that fear.
Yeah, yeah. Totally agree. I think that's like igniting, almost a fuel for,
Mhm.
if you will.
Exactly.
And I feel like as young kids, having that belief is huge. That's really a lot of it, the
Mhm.
starting point, right? You're having
Exactly.
this identity built at a young age, your
Mhm.
self-image, and then
Yeah.
having this belief like, hey, someone else believes in me. And to your point,
Mhm.
will somebody else want what I'm giving out, right?
Right,
I don't
right.
want to be rejected, but having that self-belief that,
Mhm,
I do have a purpose, my ideas matter, and what I'm
mhm.
giving is important.
Yeah,
Is
and I think one of the things is that, uh, sometimes they may not want what you want or want what you have. I remember there's times when, like, you may after the holiday is up, after Valentine's Day, when it's February 15th, you may still
Yeah.
have some cups left.
Yep.
And that doesn't mean that your idea was useless. I think it just means that you tried, and as long as you try and bring that idea to life, I think that's
Mhm.
what really matters, and I think that's what also that part of, self-belief,
Yeah.
uh, played a big pact or played a big part in, so
Yeah, that's a good point to point out. Yeah, even it
yeah.
doesn't mean your idea is bad. It's
Mhm.
it may not be in the right time or just
Right.
the time period. A good
Exactly.
answer there.
Mhm.
Looking back, right? So looking back on
Yeah.
your journey as a child, right? Your entrepreneurial spirit. Do you believe entrepreneurship was as a skill you learned right as a young age, or is that something you
Mhm.
think instinctively that was just you followed or is innate? You think within you?
Yeah, yeah. I believe it's something that's definitely a combination of both. In
Yeah.
my case, it's a combination of both,
Yeah.
because of that, kind of entrepreneurial environment that I came from. A lot of times when you're younger, you need a reference point in what you want to go in life. I think that's the whole
Hmm.
notion, conversations around representation, whether or not you want to be a doctor, and you see somebody you know or see somebody who looks like you who's a doctor, or if you want to be a engineer, knowing somebody who is an engineer really gives you that reference point to show you what's possible. So I believe early on it was instinctive because I had those reference points. I had those stories. Oftentimes, after my
Hmm.
mom went from nails, she went into just selling clothes and being some sort of mobile boutique in a way,
Yeah. Yeah.
and riding around with her on the weekends as she went to sell clothes that you couldn't get in the store. That was a step above from the things that you would get in the store. Just riding around with her
Yeah.
gave me that reference point. It gave me that instinct. But then with that instinct, I think one of the things that's important is finding opportunities to enrich that. and really develop those skills. So while I did have
Mhm.
those instincts early on, I had went to a magnet school for business and finance. And
Yes,
in doing that, that gave me insights into the world. And then on top of the curriculum, the business curriculum, I was involved in marketing clubs and business clubs, and that gave me another level of expertise, and another level of exposure.
for
And
sure.
in that way, it was something that built upon that instinct. So when there's conversations about nature versus nurture, it was a combination of both. It
Exactly,
was
yeah,
inside of me, but also I found ways I was able to involve myself in things that nurtured that instinct.
yeah. Yeah, you definitely, um, what's maybe enriched, right, your skill set.
Mhm.
You went
Right.
deeper into that
Mhm.
skill set of what you could provide,
Exactly.
from what your parents
Exactly.
already built in that
Right.
environment,
Right. Right.
in that culture.
Mhm.
You said your school, right? And that's where I was kinda heading
Yeah.
next is you went to a
Mhm.
magnet high school, right? Focused on business and
Yeah.
finance. Um, how do you think, that environment shaped how you think and learn, right? So, you've
Mhm.
obviously went from childhood, now you're getting, high school, you're
Right.
learning
Right.
kinda your nature and nurture as you explained, but now you're in
Mhm.
this great high school.
Right.
How did that environment, right, shape your thinking and learning?
Right. So with that particular curriculum, it exposed us to the world of business and finance early on, where some people may wait until college to get into business curriculums or get into finance curriculums. We kind of had that exposure early on. So we had courses on introduction to business. We had courses on marketing. We had courses on accounting. We had courses on financial services and entrepreneurship. So early on, that kind of exposure in high school and
Mhm.
experience in high school gave me a sense of what this world is like. And it also gave me a sense of what I may be interested in. Whether or not I would be interested in accounting versus marketing, or whether or not I'd be interested in banking over advertising. So just kind of having that insight before I went on to college and before I went on to more expansive entrepreneurial experience, I had that exposure and awareness of what it takes to make this world run a business.
Mhm.
And then having that, I believe it really set me up for how I further expanded my entrepreneurial involvement in life.
Yeah, I think it's great because, yeah, you would get to college, we all have been there for most people, right? You're 18,
Mhm.
17, 19, and you may not know what you want at that point. And
Yeah.
to what you were speaking of, like, you're getting in high school, a real world
Mhm.
example of
Exactly.
what this world looks like, right? In your own
Mhm.
words, what I may like, what I dislike, what resonates, what doesn't.
Right.
So having that, I feel like from that perspective, it gives you, kind of a hand up, if you will,
Mhm.
in that world. Now,
Right.
were you at this magnet school for all 4 years?
Yeah, so all 4 years. Interesting story. I had
Yeah.
got into the magnet school, because there were several areas of focus,
Yes.
and, the way I got in was through, I believe it was information technology, and while that is a hot thing to do nowadays, it
Correct.
just absolutely did not resonate with me, absolutely did not resonate at all.
Yeah, yeah.
I mean, I went into the school knowing what I wanted to do, but sometimes
Yeah,
you have to get in where you fit in.
exactly, yeah.
And although I got in where I could fit in at the time, it's
Mhm,
not where I fit in. So, I believe I advocated for the switch to business and finance probably like the first week I got into the
mhm.
school. And then I think not even a month, I switched over to business and finance.
Okay.
And then throughout those 4 years, I, was on that track of business and
Yes.
finance at the magnet school. So all 4 years I was there and I enjoyed it. I definitely enjoyed it.
Yeah. Was there any time, and this is me just curious, was there any, like, pre-testing to get into the school or certain
Ooh, that was almost 20 years ago. How
okay,
time
okay.
flies.
Yeah, exactly.
I was just talking to a teacher, um, about how it's been 15 years since I graduated high school, and it's
That's
insane
wild.
how time can fly. And it's just insane. So all that to say, I don't recall if there was
Yeah,
pre-testing. I know it's kind of like a lottery system, and then you kind of rank what majors you want to do.
yeah.
But I don't recall if there was any pre-testing for sure.
I was just curious, I
Yeah,
was like, man, I
yeah,
assume, it's
hmm
you were in a class of very smart,
right,
folks,
hmm
including yourself.
yeah, yeah. So
Um,
I think your uh, efforts throughout middle school may have played a part in whether or not you were kind of like
Things like that.
qualified.
Yeah.
I don't know if there was like a GPA requirement or what the case may have been. I do recall, I believe either in middle school,
Mhm.
when I tried to apply to go to magnet school, I recall there being auditions because I think at
Mm,
this point it was like a acting or
okay.
arts school,
Right.
which is an element of life that I enjoy and kind of explore at times. So that was the aspect of the journey in middle school. But for this particular high school, I think it was just an application process and then um figuring out if you made it or not.
Correct. Fair enough.
Yeah.
Well,
Hmm.
obviously being there, you were smart, right? You knew what you wanted,
Try.
and, you received, right, you mentioned you received a Bill Gates Millennium Scholarship, right, which
Hmm.
obviously, in that case, removed a lot of financial pressure, which is huge. How did that freedom change your relationship with learning and risk, right? That's
Right, right, right.
and kinda for viewers, I played football, I played Division I, so, for me and for my mom, I didn't have to pay for
Yeah,
school, right? So you're kinda
right.
going here, it's free
Hmm.
99 as I
It's
walk in
free
the door,
99.
free 99. I mean, you gotta work,
Yeah.
but, from a
Hmm.
financial standpoint, yeah,
Right,
you're not
right.
burdened by that.
Yeah, having that pressure removed, so with the Bill Gates or Bill and Melinda Gates scholarship, it was something that you applied for through, I think it was like 10 essays you had to write. You had
Hmm.
to get like 3 to 4 recommendations.
Jeez.
Academics had to be stellar. So it was a huge, huge process
Yeah, yeah.
that thousands of people apply for each year. And I believe the year that I applied, I think there were 22,000 applicants and 1,000 were selected. Coming out of the gate, just knowing that you were selected was one, it's like, wow, like I, this is an amazing opportunity.
Yeah,
And then with that particular scholarship, you can choose any college you wanted to go to. So you have the opportunity to go to the college of your dreams. And in
that's
doing
amazing.
so, it was such an amazing experience to one, I wish I would have been a tad bit more ambitious when I applied for different colleges.
Yeah, yeah,
That way, if you have the pick of the litter, you just to have all those options.
yeah.
But I did have a stellar school on my list that I applied to, which was Pepperdine University in Malibu. And that was when visiting and seeing the campus be on the beach, essentially,
Yeah,
having
beautiful.
ocean views, sunny all the time, having that as an option or consideration was something that it's a wild dream.
Yeah,
And then to have that scholarship, I was like, you know what, this is kind of like a no brainer. Let's
yep,
let's pick
that's yeah,
this one.
yep,
And
yeah.
going into that environment, having that pressure removed, was something that was a blessing, and it was something that was like I said, a wild dream come true.
Mhm.
And it really gives you this one, as I mentioned, it was 22,000 applicants, 1,000 selected. That gives you this willingness to commit to the process. So going into it, having that financial pressure removed, and also invoked a uh, sense of, I want to say commitment pressure, but this pressure to ensure that you make good on the investment that was made in you. And in doing that, I think that's one of the things that you think about when you don't have the financial pressure there, or particularly when there's an investment being made in you. How can I make
Connect.
good on this investment? How can I
Yep.
produce an ROI to ensure that they didn't waste their money?
Yeah, money well spent.
money well spent. And
Yeah.
at this time, I believe tuition a year was like 75,000, and
Mm,
um, to have that type of investment at such a young age, year after year after year, I believe was something that makes you want to commit to the process and
yeah, yeah,
ensure you can learn as much as you want and learn as much as you need. I believe so. I believe with financial pressure, there comes a sense you kind of like pull back at times from exploring the opportunities that may be presented to you. But with having that pressure removed, I was able to explore the opportunities that were
yeah.
presented to me.
Yeah, you definitely wanna do good on your, on yourself, right? I think when someone
Mhm.
like you said, someone's investing in you, you wanna show up. I think
Exactly.
there's that to you explain that commitment pressure, like, "Hey, they
Mhm.
chose me. Let me get
Yeah.
there. Let me show them."
Mhm.
Right? Prove to
Right,
myself,
exactly.
prove to them.
Mhm.
And to your point, you have a different clarity.
Right, right.
You take the weights off, if you will, as you're running. You're not
Mhm.
so heavy when you have
Yeah.
that money, burden off.
Mhm.
So you
Exactly,
can kind of
exactly.
have some free range. If you
Mhm.
can too, because you went to Pepperdine, right? Another
Right.
well-established institution, right? From an academic
Mhm.
standpoint. This led you into the field that you were in, and if you can, for our viewers, can you share what you studied? Because it's
Yeah.
really going to segue perfect into your adventures in traveling.
Right, right, right. So, as mentioned in high school, I did the business and finance track, and that was something that I wanted to continue. So, going into Pepperdine, I think I was admitted in advertising, and then
Mhm.
shortly after acceptance, I switched to business and finance.
Yes.
Not business and finance, business administration, I believe, to just really like deepen my understanding of the real world of business,
Correct.
and just really figuring out where I fit in that world. Because although I had insight that I wanted to be involved in business, at this point you're an adult, so it's like, where do you really want to fit
Yeah.
in this business world? So getting that expertise, getting that knowledge, proving that you know that knowledge was something that was important to me. And then shortly, I believe 2 years in, I switched to international business to really capitalize on opportunities to study abroad.
Mhm.
And with that particular major switch, although I had traveled and studied abroad in London before I switched over, my exploration of London, my experience in London really was like, you know what?
Yeah.
International business may
This
be
might
what
be this
you
might be the way.
this might be where you want to fit in.
Yeah, you might wanna stay here a
So
little bit longer.
stay here a little bit longer. So I had switched to international business, and with that, then had the opportunity to study abroad in Shanghai, and then study abroad again in Buenos Aires. So again, speaking back to the notion of having different pressures removed, it really opens you up to accept different opportunities that are presented to you. So from switching the major to studying abroad, just having those opportunities and taking advantage of those opportunities was something that really influenced not only what I did at that time, but also the different mindsets and the different things that I explored after graduation.
Yeah, yeah, you were just, in my opinion, stacking up different experiences, different moment. It was just like you were just collecting, right? Like like Thanos, you were just collecting
Exactly.
rings, along the way. Yeah.
Just
And
counting them up, counting them up.
and speaking of those places, right? London, Buenos
Yeah.
Aires, Shanghai, man, you're traveling,
Mhm.
right, at a young age.
Right.
In your opinion, what do you think those cultures either taught you,
Yeah.
or, taught you about that you couldn't learn in formal education,
Mhm. Right,
right?
right, right. So I think they show you the humanity of people. I think oftentimes when you stay in one location or
Mhm.
particularly stay in one country, it can easily become a siloed experience where you believe or kind of think that people all are the same in a way. Although I grew up in Vegas, then went to college in LA, I'm aware that there are diverse experiences. But I believe when you travel outside of your particular culture and realize that things are different throughout the
Mhm.
world, like really, really different.
Yeah, yeah.
You, for instance, just simply going to London and how they drive on opposite sides of the road, that's a culture shock or a geographical shock in a
Yeah.
way. and then going to Shanghai, China. Then one, although I studied Chinese to be able to speak a little bit, just this notion that you can't or I couldn't effectively communicate with others. So that gives you a sense of how do I communicate uh, through the body? How do I use body language to communicate? How do I use presence to communicate? And then going to Buenos Aires and experiencing South American culture and Argentinian culture
Mhm.
gives you another sense of a cultural dimension that although you can read about different cultural dimensions, I believe it's Hofstede's cultural dimensions
Mhm.
that highlight how different cultures respond to time or how the different cultures respond to different communication elements. Being immersed in those particular cultures really gives you a understanding of how do I then acclimate to these cultures. You can read and have an awareness, but how do I acclimate to these experiences? I believe that's what these travels showed me that
Yeah.
particularly formal education or simply studying could not show you.
Yeah. As you're speaking, I'm, like, taking theory to reality, right? You
Yeah.
can read in the book, you can hear about it, but, you I'm assuming you had to
Mhm.
really put yourself out there uncomfortably,
Yeah.
I would assume, just like
Mhm.
any person coming to America where the
Right.
language is English, you gotta to effectively communicate, to be effective in communication, um, you gotta learn that language, right?
Yeah.
You gotta be in
Mhm.
that culture. So you really
Yeah.
see and live it and embody a new way of living.
Right, right, right. Especially for instance, being in China, I think it's very evident that I am a
Yeah,
black man, and evident that that I'm
yeah,
not Chinese.
correct.
So even just traveling it pushes you to be hyper prepared
Yeah.
to know what may be common in a particular area, kind of like know where you need to travel to, know
Mhm.
what's needed of you to ensure not only your safety, but to ensure that you respect others. And I believe that that was another just practice that was instilled, which is this sense of preparedness that you may not be able to learn. It's something that you just learn by doing.
Yeah,
It's
yep,
that element of preparedness. I believe that's what also those travel experiences teach you as well.
yeah. Speaking as you were traveling, right, all these different countries, how did seeing different ways of living and working in those
Yeah.
environments, um, expand your definition of success or possibility,
Mhm.
if it had an effect?
Right. Yeah, yeah. Yeah. So I believe the thing about those three locations, London, Shanghai, and Buenos Aires, is
Yeah.
that they all are kind of distinct in their own ways. And they give you a sense of again awareness of what life is like and how people work. For
Mhm.
instance, in South America, in Buenos Aires, it's a tad bit more relaxed. Where you come from, America, you come from American ways of working. That's very prompt. That's very punctual.
Yep.
But in Buenos Aires, it was this sense of relaxation and this sense of letting things flow the way that they flow.
Mm,
So if class started a little bit late, there's no
yeah.
reason to like
Don't sweat it.
get your garments in a bunch.
Yeah, yeah,
Whereas if you're running late out in America or running late in more American standards, that's a huge problem. So I think going back to the notion of these different experiences show you that different people live different ways. And
mhm,
that that's not particularly in certain things, there's not particularly one way to do things. And I believe that one helps you communicate effectively.
correct,
But two also show you or give you a encouragement to figure out what works for you. And I believe that's definitely something that was highlighted in those experiences, how people live and how people work, is that you can really define those terms for yourself.
for sure. And at this time thanks for sharing that too. At this time, were you I think you were around, like, 21, 20, is that about the
Yeah.
age you
So
were saying?
London, yeah. So London, I was 19. And
Okay,
then in Shanghai and Buenos Aires, I believe I was 22 and 23. So
okay, yeah,
I'm still young. I mean, when you
yeah, yeah.
look back at like now, when you look at the age that we're at now, you're like, you know what? You're a little young
Yeah, you
tenderoni.
you were yeah, you were doing something. Yeah.
Yeah, like you still had a lot to learn about so much of life, but to have those experiences early on was something that was definitely
Yeah, so yeah, definitely impactful.
mhm,
Exactly what I was thinking. And
yeah.
when you came back, right? So
Mhm,
um you were in business and finance.
mhm. Right.
Um so when you come back, I think you mentioned you were doing working with Fox, right?
Mhm.
How did that working with Fox, obviously your education, travel, how did that,
Yeah.
I guess, combination of exposure build confidence for you when you were working with a company like Fox and other companies down the road?
Yeah. Yeah, so when as I mentioned earlier on, I had an artistic and an art edge to myself. So it was kind of like this duality of being a business guy, but
Mhm.
also a creative and artist deep down inside. So I had those two elements. And then in college, I kind of leaned into that creative side
Yes.
extracurricularly. And in doing that, I landed in the realm of creative consulting and landed in the realm of design in the graphic sense of things. So in one particular course that I took, I believe my senior year of college, it was a group project, and one of my roles was creative design for this nonprofit organization.
Mhm.
And in that particular instance, I really brought all of my creative consulting and graphic design skills into one, to really show that, oh, you can have impact in real world organizations,
Yep.
um, that are like really outside of a bubble of a school or outside a bubble of whatever organization that you're involved in. In that sense of working with that nonprofit organization, they essentially became my first client when it came to creative consulting and design.
Mm.
And in doing that, I then had the opportunity to work with Fox. So one of my professors, she was consulting with, I believe it was 21st Century Fox,
Yep.
and then she brought me in to also work in a creative consulting design capacity. And in doing that, it really gave me this belief again that you can have impact the same way that my dad taught me early on that your ideas matter and that they can bring value to others. Here I was at another point in my life that really elevated that sense of knowing of that your ideas can truly make an impact and that they can bring value to others.
Yes.
I believe that's something that I took from that nonprofit organization that became my first client, is kind of still a client today, over
Good
10
for
years
you.
later.
Yeah.
And then also going into different organizations like 21st Century Fox, and different individuals who I kind of worked with around that same time.
Good, good. And can you share too kind of what creative work you were doing just for like, audience that may
Yeah.
be curious to say, "Hey, what type of work were you doing?"
Yeah, so it kind of started out with graphic design and just working on different materials that may be needed for marketing or may be needed for branding, whether that's a logo, whether that's a brochure, whether that's a invitation design.
Yeah.
That's kind of like where my work started with that particular nonprofit organization, and then going into Fox that involved designing instructional videos
Mm.
for a particular challenge that they had. So it was still bringing that creative aspect to life, but also that sense of business and how can your design work within a business context. I believe that was something that
Yeah.
explained my work and continued to evolve later on down the
Yeah. Thank you. And
yeah.
I'm just curious, at that time, were you nervous? I mean, at this time, you're probably
You know, I looped in a friend of mine. I looped in my best
yeah,
friend for this particular opportunity with Fox, and in doing that, I think there were jitters because at the time you're 21, 22, and you're going into the office of somebody who's at the C-suite level of
yeah,
this
established.
established, almost conglomerate in a way,
Mhm.
and just going onto the lot, going through the gates, having to get clearance. I was not never someone who like gets hyper nervous. I just breathe, focus on my
Yeah.
breathing,
Right, reset.
sure that I'm not hyperventilating, although I'm not one to hyperventilate, but
Right.
it's just the sense of that you reach this
Yeah.
opportunity or you
We're
reach
here.
this moment, You're in this moment for a reason. And I believe because of the relationship that I had with that particular professor, in the terms of she knew what I was capable of, and I was
Mhm.
essentially there based off of a referral, which is kind of like how all of my creative work happened and continues to happen is based off of referral.
Yeah.
And having that sense of like you're brought here for a reason. It's not something that you're auditioning for. It's not something
Correct.
where it's something that they are wondering if it's going to work or not. You're here because somebody vouched for you,
Yeah, they believe in you.
and I believed, and I think that's also another thing that contributed to that self belief aspect
Good. Awesome.
in that particular moment, going into those rooms.
Yeah.
Um,
Holding your own.
so yeah, I wasn't necessarily like I said, wasn't necessarily nervous, but it's just still like a wow experience. Like, oh, these the same lots that possibly Cookie Lion, Taraji P
Yeah.
Henson that they may drive through. And just
So
that sense
special
of like,
people
okay,
walk through. Yeah,
yeah, that
multiple
most
shoes.
people have walked through, and you get to walk through these same doors and walk through these same gates. I think it's something that's beautiful. That one encourages you and gives you this sense of self belief, but also gives you again this sense of let me provide this return on investment.
Mhm.
In this particular.
Yes. Now, with everything you've done, right, do you, and this is just curious, like, do you
Mhm.
believe a well-rounded education requires culture immersion as much as curriculum, or is it this a duality you think is kind of a, protagonist to both maybe, rather than antagonist?
Yeah, I believe it's something that later on down the line, for in my research, there's so many different ways that we learn. We learn through formal education, we learn through non-formal learning, we learn through informal learning experiences. So there are so many different ways that we learn, and they all can converge to knowledge construction. They can all come together to give us the expertise that we need to show up in our personal and professional lives. So I believe those are all elements that matter. And it also differs based off of what particular profession or how you want to show up in life. If you are
Mhm.
a doctor, in the sense of a medical doctor, you need some formal education. You need to know
Yeah, yeah,
how to provide this anesthesia to ensure they're not feeling the
yep.
needles. Whereas if you're working as a musician and you are given this God-given artistic talent, cultural immersion may matter a little bit more than formal
Mhm.
institutionalized learning. So I do believe it depends on your particular the particular way you want to show up in your professional lives. Uh, but I definitely
Yep.
believe that all experiences really add to uh how you develop what you know and how you develop how to show up in different aspects of life.
Yes. Yeah, thank you. Now, with your creative work, it sounds like obviously at a
Hmm.
young age, just kinda grew, right? Through referrals, through word of
Yeah.
mouth, it kinda just organically grew, right? If
Hmm.
I'm standing correct there. Now, while you were growing that business,
Hmm.
um, were you still, well, I'll take a step back. Were you running your own business at that time, or was this kinda, you were working with the institution? I guess at
Hmm.
what point were you, I'll clarify, what point where did you kinda take this full time? That might be a better question for.
Yeah. So I believe it kind of early on. So from the jump, I started working in the capacity of doing this on my own without the overhead of a particular institution or without the overhead of a particular agency per se.
Correct.
So it started kind of like the moment that I believe it was 2015, 2016. So once the pivotal moment was working with that nonprofit organization, a particular course. And then when they brought me on to contribute to other designs, I was kind of, I believe maybe a year later, which puts me maybe a year, maybe a few months later, that they brought me on. So it's like, okay, now this is something that you can use to sustain yourself in a way.
Mhm.
And so even going from that moment, then going into Fox, these were all things I was doing under my own umbrella or without the
There we go.
overhead of a particular agency. So from the
Yep.
jump, when it came to creative consulting and design in that way, it started without that overhead of a particular agency. And so that entrepreneurial since the entrepreneurial exploration and endeavors
That's
were
all.
from early on.
Good. And that was my
Yeah.
question. I appreciate you answered that because what I was going to ask is like, hey, throughout that process,
Yeah.
did you have autonomy, right? While working, with Fox or any other companies that you may have worked with, did you still have your own self autonomy to do what you
Mhm.
wanted to create rather than being in the box, which I'm sure people who are listening who are in the kind of same field understand
Yeah.
that you can be boxed in.
Mhm. Yeah, I believe I didn't have to have that box, or I didn't have to exist and create from that box. Definitely when you're doing client work, you go into their particular boxes to ensure that
Mhm.
you can create within the confinements of what they need. But there is a lid where you can ascend up and create what you want to create, and then come back down to show what you created, discuss any changes and things of that nature. But it wasn't necessarily a box or a cage that I existed in to ensure that I could bring these different things to life.
Good. All right. So you were like, "Hey, I'm still me.
I'm still me, and
I'm doing my thing."
it's doing my thing. And as I think about it, as we discussed like early on, from those cups around the
Yeah.
holidays, the candy, to the moment of creating for different companies, different athletes, and different rising entrepreneurs. It was just this opportunity to create without limits, in a way, to really explore what creativity means to myself, what creativity means to others, and how to create a language between our creative needs.
Yep.
Is something that I'm grateful to have had the experience of doing.
Yeah. Absolutely. Well, obviously, as you progressed, right, you were kind of getting further in
Mhm.
your career. I think at
Yeah.
this time period for many people, 2020 life changed for us all,
Mhm.
right?
Right,
And I
right.
know as you shared through your journey, there was some wrestling, right? You said early in the beginning of the call there was this pivot, right? You're looking for this pivot to what direction you want to go, and you described obviously as creative wrestling. What was no longer aligning your world, in your opinion, to what you were trying to get into?
I think one of another element of this journey is that I was in school also during this time. So from undergraduate to starting my master's, there was just a 2 year break. And from that, in that moment, that 2 year break, and continuing on throughout my master's and continuing on through my doctorate, which was kind of like right after the master's,
Yep.
I was still doing creative design. So at this point in 2020, there was this sense of, how can I do more? How can I show up for others? And what would that look like? So during the pandemic started my last semester of my master's. I believe I was even working on my capstone project when the world shut down.
Hmm.
And luckily, my program was remote in the first place, so I didn't have to concern myself about traveling and things of that
Yeah.
nature. But the world had shut down during my final semester of my master's program. And in doing that, it was just, okay, what does the next step look like? Uh, when I'm going, because I knew that one, a little bit backstory, when it came to the Bill Gates and Melinda scholarship, Gates Millennium Scholarship, it paid for everything up until my doctorate, like through my doctorate. So it paid for my
Wow. Okay.
bachelor's,
So yeah, you
paid
really
for
had
my
a golden ticket.
master's, it paid for my doctorate. So the next step after the master's, like, let's do the doctorate. Let's
Might as
go that
well.
route.
Yeah.
Might as well. Might as well. You have this, you still have this investment. And let's find ways to make that return on
Maximize. Yep.
investment. And in doing that, like we said, 2020 was like, how can I do more than simply create for others? And that's when I started to think about, okay, I have this knack for positivity. I have this element of
Mhm.
creativity as well. And I'm consistently learning about different strategic methods, whether that's for organizational change, whether that's for personal development, whether that's for professional development.
Yeah.
So I was just really starting to think of different ways that I can go to the next step, or how I can further expand on the skills that I've learned throughout the years. And in doing that, that's kind of where the wrestling started. I was like, okay, there's more out there for me to do.
Mhm.
So how can we really pivot and go into that?
Yeah.
Hmm.
You said you wanna do more, right? So, like, an entrepreneur in general, is
Hmm.
is what value can I bring? What more value can I provide, right?
Hmm.
What can I bring to the marketplace that's gonna
Yeah.
create value for others? So that's such a
Hmm.
great mindset to have at that point in
Hmm.
time. I think, life slew down for a lot of people, and now if you were
Yeah.
one-dimensional, it's like, "Okay, what else can
Mhm.
I do? What,
Exactly.
other resources and services can I provide?" You ever notice how sometimes you know exactly what you wanna do, where you wanna go, but something inside keeps pulling you back? It's not strategy, it's not effort, it's not even fear. It's the patterns running underneath everything. The beliefs you didn't choose, the loops you inherited, the internal static between who you are and who you're becoming. I created something for that. It's called the Coherence Diagnostic, a free assessment designed to show you exactly where those patterns are and what's possible when you shift them. Whether you're an athlete chasing flow or an entrepreneur building from vision, this diagnostic reveals the subconscious filters shaping your decisions, your confidence, your next move. It's free, it's deep, and it's in the show notes. Take it, see your patterns, and let's talk about what comes next. Because life is art in motion, and you deserve to create from coherence, not chaos.
Mhm.
And at this point, I believe too, this is where you kind of shifted, and I won't steal your thunder, but I think you started shifting from just client work, right, to actually
Yeah.
doing your own thing, right? You said earlier,
Mhm.
living greater, which, right, your
Yeah.
last name's Gray, which is awesome. Kind of play on
Mhm.
words here. Is
Well,
that you
yeah,
create your own
we
books and
like to have
notebooks?
fun. We like to have
Yeah,
fun.
right. Creative. You create
Yeah.
your own books and notebooks, um,
Mhm.
for your own right for your own company.
Yeah.
What did that give back to you, or what did that how did that unravel, if you will, too?
Mhm. Yeah, so the whole concept behind making these creative resources for other individuals, to ultimately live greater in their personal and
Mhm.
professional lives, was this sense of like, I know that I want to go into at some point go into speaking and go into providing conversations for others, whether that's through podcasts or whether that's through keynotes or workshops or things of that nature. So I knew that that was one of the end goals. So in that time frame of doing research within the doctoral realm of things, creating these books was a way to create a foundation to then go into speaking. So you have these resources to provide others. You provide these resources around topics that matter to you, which is positivity and creativity. So
Mhm.
let's create this coloring book to essentially live greater patterns, prints, and positive words to I'm sure individuals can reflect on positivity while also doing something relaxing, then adapting that into notebook form of a place to put positive words and just a notebook to ultimately live great and just providing these resources for individuals to hone positivity and really be creative and allow that to be an outlet for them was something that I was very interested in and just really bringing that to life.
Yeah. And my own just curiosity, I know you
Yeah.
were looking for a pivot, right? There was this unwrestling,
Mhm.
but were you also kind of examining and saying, "Hey, I'm in this creative space. I want to get into another field, or maybe just something different." Were you maybe seeing the blend of that? Maybe what I'm doing now, the Live Greater, the book, right? What
Mhm.
you have.
Right.
Were you noticing maybe pattern recognition between the field you're in, maybe professionals or personally, that
Mhm.
they were needing something of that, of what you were creating on the other end? Or is this just
Right,
kind of a,
right.
"Hey, I wanna go into a different direction in general?"
Yeah, it was a sense of I believe there was an element of or emphasis on positivity throughout,
I
my
love it.
entire adulthood almost.
Yeah.
So when going back, I think I was just thinking about this when I had a blog on Blogspot. It was this sense of fashion meets inspiration.
Mm,
So it was this positivity element there. Then when I kind of like launched my own website and blog, there was still this element of lifestyle, culture, and travel, but with this essence of positivity there, this essence of inspiration
yeah, this undertone.
there. It was a lot of my extracurricular interest was always grounded in inspiration and encouragement and positivity. And I had, with my design capacity and my design skills, I knew that I could do more and understanding that there was a rise, particularly around the pandemic, maybe there was this
Mhm.
rise on different ways to relax, different ways to encourage yourself. And I noticed that there were different adult coloring books out there. So I was like, you know what? I have the skills, I have the capacity to create something like this. Let's go into this realm as a transition into speaking on down the line. So let's create this notebook. Let's create this coloring book
Mhm.
because I have the skills to do this, I see that there is a national or global demand, or there are
Yeah,
other people out
absolutely.
there creating this. So let's use these skills to create something for myself, and then also create something for others that's aligned with what's out there.
Yeah. Yeah, I love what you said, choosing yourself, right? I think this is
Mhm.
from what I'm hearing, that was kind of the biggest thing, right? You're already kind of doing great work. I think that provided a lot of value. But you're like, hey, let me do me, right?
Right,
In
right.
a sense. Um, we didn't talk about your faith. I know that was a big thing to you growing up. It still is. Has that influenced you or helped maybe encourage you, throughout your creative decisions in this period and beyond, especially in moments of uncertainty when you were trying to find, that path, if you will, to go forward?
Yeah. Right, right, right. I believe there's particularly my faith aligns along the Christian spectrum of things. So scripture often says that there, or not often, scripture does say that the Lord has good plans for you, or that he knows that there are plans for you. So that kind of like provides an overarching sense of that no matter like what you go through, there are good plans out there for me. So
Mhm.
in those moments of uncertainty, I know that there's good plans out there. There's also scripture that mentions that the Lord orders your steps.
Yeah.
So also having that as a sense of, okay, you may be uncertain, but your steps are going to be ordered. And then all things work together for the good, for those
Yeah.
who love him. So and because having these different overarching sense of knowing, or overarching awareness, that guides me at different times of uncertainty, but also bringing that into a very palpable presentation. So when it comes to positivity and my focus on positivity, that's very connected to the scripture that the power of life and death is in the tongue. So having that sense, and I'm bringing my faith into my work in a way that is universally needed, but also universally digestible. I
Yeah.
believe it's something that interests me and I continue to build upon.
Yeah. I feel like, everything you do, right, your positivity, who you are, who Dr. Joshua Gray is, it's like it's
Yeah.
woven in everything you're doing, right? There's
Mhm.
not
Yeah.
a point that's not being seen of who you are
Mhm.
intrinsically. And
Exactly.
that leads to my next question, right? You live in
Mhm.
Vegas, right? Which
Yeah.
is, we all know Vegas, gambling, lights,
We
right?
know Vegas.
Yeah, good looking men and women, right? So you're
Mhm.
surrounded by a lot of messaging, a lot of advertising, right? A lot of business,
Yeah.
spectacle.
Mhm.
With Living Greater, right? Your books, your
Yeah.
notebooks, even your creative work. How do
Mhm.
you stay grounded in intention,
Yeah.
in those avenues?
Right, right, right. I think Vegas provides a notion that life can be a mirage at times. Life can be an
Mhm.
illusion at times. People often come to Vegas to come escape their everyday lives. They come to what
Yeah.
whatever vice you may have. I believe there's an opportunity to explore that in Vegas. Or even if it's not a vice, if you just like shopping, or if you just like
Yeah.
looking at nice buildings, or looking at
Right, right.
nice things, or having a good time, or eating out good, Vegas provides an escape um to from your everyday life, but also at the same time you kind of know that this may not be real life. Like after you
Yeah.
leave
Yeah.
one of the hotels on the strip, you have to go back to your everyday life.
Correct.
That gives you a sense of knowing that time can be fleeting, uh, but how can uh, not necessarily create this escape every day, but how can we provide a sense of relief every day? And I believe that's what guides a lot of my work now, is that positivity is a way to ensure that we have that relief daily, particularly based on my experience and some of my research. Creativity is another way to escape the pressures of everyday life, to just really allow your mind to roam in a productive
Mhm.
way. And then that strategy piece, a lot of my research within the doctoral realm was around learning, and around formal learning, non-formal learning, informal
Yep.
learning,
Yep.
and particularly social media. And it's just there's so many creative pathways to personal and professional development from my research that I learned, and just kind of like from experience. So bringing that to other people through my work is where my intention lies, but also connected to Vegas, knowing that sometimes you need an escape.
Yeah, yeah,
Um,
I mean,
Here is a strategic way to do this,
yeah, at least
daily. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, definitely. I totally agree with what you're saying there. And
Mhm.
speaking of your work, which is what I wanted to get to
Yeah.
next, which is I think phenomenal, right? The information, the studies, and research that you've done through your doctorate program, you focused on early stage entrepreneurs, right? That was kind of like the
Mhm.
niche you focused on.
Yeah.
What surprised you the most in your research?
Right, right. So yeah, so my degree was a doctor of education in learning technologies, but in my research, it was about exploring the different learning strategies that early stage entrepreneurs or individuals with entrepreneurial intentions use to inform themselves on entrepreneurship, particularly when they're using informal learning environments such as social media. And what I was surprised by the most is that well, I wasn't surprised because you come in with an assumption,
Mhm.
but it's good to know that your assumptions were right. That's always a good thing.
Yeah,
Uh,
yeah, yeah.
or you come in with an expectation that you're trying to prove right or wrong, or you come in with a question. It was one of the questions was, do you use social media for learning? And one of the things that I learned was that yes, they do. It's a good amount, or some of them do. And in doing so, a lot of it is centered around connecting with other people. So, for instance, on my end, while I do use social media for learning, a lot of times it's a tad bit more about uh, just finding the knowledge that I need or searching the knowledge that I need. But what I did discover was that some actually use it to engage a tad bit more. They take it a step bit further by communicating in the comments or
Mm.
messaging different
Yep.
content experts or subject matter experts. So I think that element of connection and connecting with other people was something that surprised me because that's not something that I necessarily do. My experience is a tad bit more siloed in the sense of I'm just going to find what I need. But
Yeah,
people do connect with others. They do engage in conversation and communication to really build their knowledge on particular subjects.
yeah, yeah, that's awesome. And you kinda teed me up, right? You talked about your own learning
Yeah.
style, and that's
Hmm.
evolved, right? Your learning
Yeah.
style has evolved. I think all of our styles can evolve over time.
Hmm.
How do you listen, to how you learn now? Maybe comparing to
Yeah.
when you were in that your program or even just in the
Mhm.
past few years. How's that
Yeah.
changed?
Yeah, so I believe eh, one thing that when looking back on my journey, uh, since I started kindergarten, there was only a
Yeah,
2-year break, outside of school,
that's
uh,
wild.
up until, like, this point. So
Yeah.
that's close to in the span of 25,
Yeah, some years.
26, 27 years, there was only a 2-year break. So there was always this element of structure that was
Mhm.
associated with learning, that it was planned for you. And I think a lot of times we discuss different styles of learning, whether I'm a visual learner or an audio learner or a type of more cognitive where you need different tests or things of that nature. I think one interesting way to look at it as well is whether or not you're a self-directed learner, where you can
Yeah,
learn about a topic that you want to learn about. You could find the people that you need to learn it from. You could find the books or the podcasts that you need to learn from. I think when you as look at learning in a different way like that of whether or not I'm self-directed, I think it's very insightful as I look back over my life where a lot of structure was associated with my learning process. But since finishing school, I realized that while I may be self-directed, I
yeah,
still enjoy a little bit of structure.
yeah,
Because
yeah,
in school, realized that, you know what, I like to be self-directed. I want to like learn what I
yeah,
want to learn. And while I did lean into that, afterwards, it's like, okay, you may need a little bit of structure, buddy. You
yeah,
may
yeah,
need a
we
little
all
bit of
need it.
structure. You need a little bit of
Some
it.
guardrails.
So I am excited to one, figure out different ways that other people learn. So they continuously inform, oh, do you learn or how may you learn best moving forward in life. I believe with the way things are changing when it comes to artificial intelligence, when it comes to
Mhm.
so many avenues in the ways that people learn, it will change pretty consistently or persistently over the coming years.
Yeah.
So just figuring out what works for you constantly. As you said, it changes all the time. But for
Yeah,
me, just realizing that structure may be needed and just continuously being open to what works best. And
yeah,
because of my wide ranging interest, the different styles in which I learn may differ based off of what I need to learn. So I think it's just like just being open to the different styles that may be needed for a particular
yeah.
interest.
Yeah, that's good self-awareness, you know, just
Hmm.
just having that self-awareness of
Yeah,
one knowing where you're at now, but also saying, "Hey, I don't wanna block myself out. I don't want to, barricade myself," right, from different ways of learning that may be needed in different certain aspects.
exactly.
So, I got 2 questions here for you, right? I'm
Yeah.
gonna kinda take you back a little bit because I missed my
Mhm.
question I wanted to ask you, and then we're gonna dive forward. But you already kinda just sprinkled a little conversation on it, right? You found the entrepreneurs learn in non-traditional ways, right?
Yeah.
What does that say, or maybe what are your thoughts on, like, what does that say about education today?
Right, right, right. I think it again, I think it's also tethered to the idea that it varies based off of what particular industry you're involved in.
Mhm.
Because
I agree.
while times may change, lives don't necessarily change. So for instance, like when you're studying to be a medical doctor,
Yeah.
you still need to learn in a particular way to ensure that you can preserve life um, and not become a mortician by mistake. But when it comes to entrepreneurship, I think there is a range of ways in which you can learn because of the access that we have nowadays.
Mhm.
And in doing so, I believe it's going to consistently be important in exploring different ways to learn. Because I think I read a statistic that
Yeah.
in by 2030 or 2039 or something like that, because of birth rates, there may be a decline in enrollment at different colleges, which may then mean that different colleges may close. But at
Wow.
the same time, uh, entrepreneurship, people will still want to be entrepreneurs. Entrepreneurship will still be a lane. So how do you learn in those instances? So in a way, there's so many things externally that can change, but our passions may not change completely per se.
Yeah.
So if you want to be an entrepreneur, if you want to be a musician, or if you want to be a engineer, just constantly being aware of different opportunities or different access that we may have, I think will continuously be pivotal. And I think it's something that's really pivotal to me, figuring out, okay, are there podcasts out about this particular topic that I want to learn? Are there books out? Is artificial intelligence skilled in providing me the insights that I need for this particular venture? Or do I need to engage in a mentorship with somebody
That's
or
yeah.
be an apprentice or things of that nature? So I think it goes again back to that self awareness piece, and just really figuring out what may be needed for yourself.
Yeah. Yeah, yeah, you hit it on the head, and actually you spoke of, books, podcasts, conferences, live
Yeah,
experiences. That was my next question I was gonna ask you, which you've kinda already answered now. How does that play into modern consciousness? Which
yeah,
sounds like, it just depends on the avenue, different fields you're in. What are you really looking at? What do you really need, um,
mhm,
for the information that you're trying to gather?
exactly,
So, like I said, you
exactly.
kinda touched on that. Do you believe, learning is more access or agency?
Yeah, I think it goes back to that piece about that self-directed learning because that self-directed learning is a whole kind of like field of research in a way.
Yeah,
And that's connected to the agency piece of figuring out what you need as a learner and then figuring out what I need to plan to learn. But also at the same time, access is still needed. Chat GPT, we may love Chat GPT, but at some point they're introducing a payment structure to ensure that you can get particular insights or advanced
yes,
processing.
yes.
Now here's a threat to access that may impact your learning. So if you don't got the funds, if you don't have the coins, you may need to pivot to finding a podcast or finding a book
Yeah,
and
yeah, or
processing
something free.
information that way.
Yeah,
Yeah, finding a different way to learn. So while there's elements of agency that is important, particularly for adult learners and individuals who want to just continuously engage in lifelong learning,
mhm,
agency matters, but also access plays a big part. Because as we discussed early on, we have the opportunity to go to college without financial pressure.
correct.
That gives us access to staying in school in a way that
Mhm,
other people may not have. So it's a balancing act, I believe, of agency and access when it
yeah.
comes to learning for sure.
Yeah, I would agree. That was a great
Mhm.
answer, man. I appreciate that.
Yeah.
So as we kind of wrap up, we're gonna hit the kind of exit here shortly. I know obviously you're involved in a lot of things, and
Yeah.
one was kind of specifically creating kind of a resource hub, right? A
Mhm.
personal and professional development work.
Yeah.
Um, if you can explain to the listeners there, what are you trying to solve, or really trying to solve with that, and what maybe sparked that idea?
Yeah, exactly. I think one of my core aspects of interest or core interest in life is exploring different creative pathways to personal and professional development,
Hmm.
which was kind of like heightened by my research and the fact of like there are different ways to learn. We're often conditioned to be like, okay, after you finish high school, you go to college.
Yes,
After
yes,
college, or during college, you get an internship, and then from there, you may go work and learn on the job, but I definitely believe there are different ways to learn when it comes to professional and professional development. So I think that's one of the things that interests me the most about moving
yeah,
forward in the future is one, talking about creative pathways to those different types of development. I believe that's one of the reasons why I ventured off into books or coloring books,
hmm,
notebooks, and the children book that's coming up soon, to show that people of all generations can find different ways to work for them to develop themselves personally and professionally. While my books focus on positivity and creativity, um, it shows that this is a resource that when you use it, when you engage with it, you're learning in that process. And this is a creative way to engage in personal professional development. So in moving forward,
love
I'm
that.
really excited about different ways to communicate and converse with others on the ways that they learn, and then hopefully developing something that shows the range of pathways to developing yourself personally and professionally.
Yeah. Jokingly, it sounds like the viewers need to get in touch with you so you can gather the data to give back what
You
they need.
know,
Yeah,
we'll see what the future holds. We'll see
yeah.
what the future
But
holds.
in reality, in all seriousness, I think I love the idea. I love what you're doing because it's right. We all learn in different ways, and you're saying, "Hey, I have this avenue, this um, house, if you will, of an
Mhm.
array of right tools,
Yeah.
resources to help you
Mhm.
at certain levels in certain
Yeah.
capacities." So having that would be, in my opinion, very valuable, right?
Yeah.
For myself, for others that are probably looking for something like that, right? They're looking for this go-to place where they can find it. They're
Exactly.
putting it together.
Well, it's good to know that the demand is there. It's good
Yeah,
to know
no,
that
yeah.
the demand is there.
It's that's needed. I think because
Yeah.
we live in this age where it's still information age, and we're all kind of
Mhm.
picking and choosing, trying to find different apps, different AIs,
Yeah.
right? All these AI systems. Then you got
Mhm.
your book list, your audios, right? Podcasts. So you have
Yeah.
different mediums, if you will, of communication of information that if we can just find in one spot, in a
Mhm.
condensed area that's easy to access, right? That's cuts down on efficiency, right? All the benefits for the end user.
Exactly.
So yeah, good work. Um, I was going to move forward. I was going to say, looking at your success, what does success, excuse me, mean to you now compared to earlier versions of yourself?
Mhm. Yeah, I
Version.
believe now, um still existing within that pivot space,
Mhm.
I believe success really means and continues to mean just having that agency, having that autonomy. And as long as I can preserve that, I believe that will define my perspective on success. Having that agency, having that autonomy to create how I want to create it, create when I want to create, really create significant things that connect with others. Is something that
Mhm.
defines my success right now, and will continue to define my success. So,
I love it. It's funny you're saying agency. I feel like that's kind of been of a subtle theme in back in my mind as I'm going to
mhm.
2026. It's like having that
Yeah,
autonomy, having that agency
mhm.
to think and choose and select
Yeah,
what works best for you, and not feel like you
right,
had to be
right.
maybe not a victim, but get succumbed over by something else that you really don't want to do or doesn't
Yeah,
fit you
yeah,
or aligns.
yeah,
Having that agency,
yeah.
as you spoke of, is I think just vitally important to have
Hmm.
in a sense of freedom, right? When
Yeah,
you're in this position of
hmm,
of agency. Yeah.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Um, last couple questions here, man. If if a creative or entrepreneur is listening, right, and they feel maybe boxed in or uncertain, what would you want them to hear if they're in that journey?
Yeah, yeah. I believe that one, I think what I would tell them first is that we all encounter those spaces. We
Yes.
all can encounter creative ruts from the greatest to the least. We all experience moments that provide a source of friction in our
Mhm.
lives. We may not know what to do. We may not know
Yeah.
what fulfills us. And I think those are the moments where we can start asking questions about what that pivot may be, because as I discuss how scripture guides me in the sense of there are good plans ahead. There
Mhm.
are steps that are ordered for your life, and then also that all things can work together when you love the Lord, and how that guides me. I believe it's something that can guide others as well. Just having this sense of knowingness that good is ahead, that
Yeah. Everything will be
greater
okay.
is ahead. Everything will be okay, and then just really to lock in on your passions, and figure out what are you passionate about,
Yep.
and how can I bring that to life. So I think that also tethers back to the notion of like the importance of being positive
Yeah.
about what you do in life, about your mindset. Also have a willingness to be creative. For instance, like my coloring book was built off of different quotes that I shared on social media
Mhm.
in the past. And then from the coloring book, I built the notebook or adapted it into a notebook. And then from that place, created this children book that's also connected to positivity. And that was all about one, being positive about a direction that I want to go, and being creative about this world that I'm building around positivity and creativity. And then just using strategy to essentially move forward. So in those moments where I was in that creative rut where I just wanted to lay down and not do anything.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
while there were
Yeah.
days when that was the reality,
Yeah,
uh,
that's true. Yeah.
sometimes you just want to scroll in bed.
Yep.
But that notion that there's good ahead, just maintaining that positivity and
Yeah.
that being open to creativity, and
Yeah.
essentially finding your passions.
That's such a real, honest answer.
Yeah.
You're speaking, I'm like, I think many entrepreneurs, myself included, I think you can be naive in a sense to think everything's
Hmm.
great, and I don't
Yeah.
think everything's gonna be roses, but to
Hmm.
realize that everyone, to your point, goes through those ruts, it's okay.
Yeah.
It's gonna happen,
Hmm. Yeah.
but you can get to the other side of the hill,
Yeah.
and
Yeah,
you
like
run.
success won't always be a rose garden, but
No.
there may be a rose in the concrete. So find the roses in the concrete that's growing from the concrete, to make your own bouquet
Yeah.
of roses,
Yeah.
and what you
Love
define as a
that.
rose in your life. So
Yep.
I believe that's really important.
And you're gonna have friction. I think to your point, I want
Yeah.
to elaborate is like every individual, every entrepreneur has assets and
Mhm.
inefficiencies, right?
Yeah.
And I think wherever that is in the path, you're gonna
Mhm.
bump that friction point.
Mhm.
And that's
Yeah,
where I think you
exactly.
really develop your skill set and say, okay, I'm really good at
Mhm.
this and I'm really not.
Yeah,
Um, but still
exactly.
be open to learning, still be open to creative work,
Mhm.
um, to not, like I said, pushing yourself in a hole where all you see is doom and gloom. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly.
All right. So next question for you, Dr. Gray here, man. When you zoom out and you look at your life so far, what are
Mhm.
you most proud of currently?
Yeah. I think what I'm most proud of currently is the ability to be inspiration for my nieces and nephews. I would
Mhm.
say it's something that brings me great joy that they can again have that reference point about what's
Yep.
possible. The
Yep.
same way that I had the stories of my grandmother, had the experiences of my dad and my mom when it came to entrepreneurship as reference points on entrepreneurship. I am most proud of the ability to be a reference point for my nieces and nephews, for them when it comes to being positive about life,
Yeah.
about finding creative ways to show up. Just recently, when I had a workshop with the library district out here in Vegas, my niece did the photography for me. Or she
That's awesome.
captured the photos for me, and for her to see her uncle do something that may not
Yeah.
be common of people's uncles, or may not be common, or may not be a reference point in their lives. Like, oh, you can actually partner with these different organizations, or you can bring joy to others based off of something that you created. It's one of the things that I'm most proud of, just bringing that or being a reference point,
Yeah.
a North Star in a way for
Yeah, beacon.
my family.
Yeah, and I love that you incorporated your niece to
Yeah.
see her do her thing, and
Hmm.
invited her to do that, and her to see you
Yeah.
do your thing, and this
Exactly.
kind of cohesive
Hmm.
interaction, right, with
Yeah.
family.
Hmm.
So my last, right, famous line from my podcast, I ask all my guests, right, is to
Yeah.
close out the sentence, right? The podcast is called the Life Is Podcast. And if I'd asked you, Dr. Gray, to finish this out, right, fill in the blank, life is, what
Yeah.
would you fill it in with?
I'm gonna imagine it as a test and just think on it for a minute before I immediately answer.
You got time, right? You got time. There's no pressure.
Life is um life is opportunity. And when I say that, I connected back to what I've kind of discussed throughout this entire conversation. When I think about opportunity, I think it's something that you have to view with positivity for one,
Yep.
something that you view through the lens of creativity, because as we mentioned, that there will be friction when we just exist,
Yeah.
when
Touch
we try
on
to
that.
bring ideas to life, when we try to take intentions to inventions, there will be friction. So I think there would be a need for creativity, but also when we use strategy, whether that's different frameworks that we learn through our life, whether those are different methods that we learn that are unique to our particular industries, strategy would be able to lead us to opportunity or lead us to see those opportunities. And I believe when you realize that life is opportunity, you then are able to live greater. And really just show up every day as the person that you need to be, meeting every day with everyday purpose. I believe that's one of the things that's critical in viewing life as opportunity. So that's what
Man,
I'll definitely say. Life is opportunity.
you're giving myself and the audience a word today. Okay,
You know,
that was right off the
that
cuff.
that's the pivot that we're looking to do.
That's it. That's
bring bring that positivity to others.
Man, you couldn't have said it better, man. That's so true. When you look at that, when you change your lens to look at life as
Hmm.
opportunity in different
Exactly.
areas where you can kind of plug into or dive into and create from there. What you
Hmm.
said, that perspective is um, it's impactful. So it's important.
Indeed.
Last thing
Indeed.
here, man. Where can people
Yeah.
find Dr. Joshua Gray? Where can
Yeah.
they tap in with you and connect with you?
Right. So you can visit www thejoshuagray.com. I have to make sure I said that right. It's three W's, just in case I said four, but www.thejoshuagray.com. You can also find me on pretty much all socials, Instagram, Facebook, um, X, Twitter, at the Joshua Gray. And then also, if you search Amazon for my books, Patterns, Print, and Positive Words, The Coloring Book to Live Greater, it's on there. A Place to Put
Yeah.
Positive Words. It's on Amazon as well. And then my upcoming children's book, Joja Picks Positive Words to Say.
Hmm.
Once you search all of those things, you'll be able to find me.
Okay, man. Hey, we got all the avenues to find you. I
All the creative
Yeah,
pathways.
all there's never keep it open. And I'll put
Yeah,
your books, which I'll
yeah,
gladly put those in the show notes. So for the
yeah.
audience, those who are viewing that want to, purchase those or even take a look at them or your website, I'll have all that in the show notes to
Indeed.
connect with.
Sounds good. Sounds good.
Awesome. Well, Dr. Gray, I appreciate the
Wait,
time.
wait, wait, wait. So, what would you say life is? What would you fill in the blank today?
Okay. So you switched the question on me.
Yeah.
Good question, right? I'm obviously hosting the show, but life is as cliche as it sounds, I would say life
Hmm.
is a journey. And I say
Yes.
that, right, to explain a journey. There will be ups and downs. There will be good. There will be great people you connect with, experiences. Um, but there is a journey that you um, can create for yourself. And to your sense, there's this positivity, right? And for me, I'm kind of the same way. I see things on the brighter side of things. So in this journey, you can create really what you want.
Hmm.
Um, by holding a disposition and perspective of life that things are great, right? Things are great. You can create things. And no matter where you go, um, you can find a way. And I think the
Yeah.
journey in that process is what gives you life, right?
Mhm.
As much as you want things to be perfect, the journey gives you fuel to become a better
Yeah.
person, right? A better friend,
Mhm.
a better colleague, husband, brother,
Right.
sister. And for me, that journey um, is something that's personal, right? The journey is personal
Mhm.
and
Yeah.
it's something you create every day, right? That's why the
Mhm.
life is,
Exactly.
why I created it. There's different
Mhm.
variables, there's different experiences, there's different avenues, there's different careers.
Yeah.
There's so much that you can tap into, and that journey is
Mhm.
is up to you. So life is a journey,
Exactly.
and you get to choose it.
Indeed, indeed. That great answer. Although I'm not the host of this show, great answer. And in that, I appreciate you for bringing me on this journey
Yeah,
with the
yeah,
podcast. As somewhat another point in our journey of being connected. Like we said earlier on, it's been close to a decade, so I really appreciate the opportunity to be a guest on this journey. It's
absolutely.
also been great to watch your journey over the past few
Yeah,
years,
thank you.
or
Yeah,
not
appreciate that.
few, several
Yeah,
years, on just really bringing positivity, bringing awareness, bringing clarity, bringing consciousness to your audience. Whether it's one person or 100 people, it's been a encouraging to watch your commitment over the years. And I continuously wish you the best as you explore what life is
yes.
from various people's perspectives.
Well, thank you. I appreciate that. I
Indeed.
take the kind words, and
Indeed.
with that, Dr. Gray, I'll let you get back to it. But once again, thank you for your
Perfect.
time.
Indeed. Thank you. Thank you.
Take care.
All right. Same to you.
What Josh showed us today is that agency is not something you fight for once and then keep it. It is something you choose daily, in the projects you take, the ones you walk away from, and the work you put your name on. He has been making that choice since he was a kid in the school hallway, and every version of his career since then has been the direct downstream consequence of that original decision to build on his own terms. That is not hustle, that is coherence, and that is exactly what this show is about. That's a wrap on today's episode of the Life Is podcast. If something in this conversation landed for you, a shift in perspective, a reminder, or something you needed to hear, don't let it stay there. Take it with you, put it to work. If you're ready to go deeper, I have tools built specifically for this journey, a self-discovery blueprint and a diagnostic designed to show you exactly where your foundation needs attention. Links are in the show notes. And if this episode added value, share it with someone who's building, leave a review, help us grow this community of intentional people doing real work. Remember, fulfillment isn't found, it's built. Life is art in motion, and you are the artist. Until next time, keep building.